So, one thing that I'm so excited to talk to you about today is ancestor stuff because in December, when we were at our convention, you were like, "Oh, let your ancestors talk to my ancestors." And I was like, "Say what? All right, we're having a conversation about this."
I don't remember saying that to you, but that is something that keeps being brought into my awareness. And I wonder if it's important to mention what our conversation was about. But even just
Yeah.
recently, let me think of what was happening. It might be with a friend who just got fired. I think that's where it came up, where like there's a concern with the organization that's now she's going into arbitration with. And I had mentioned like,
Oh,
let their
yes.
ancestors talk to yours.
Yes.
And I had done that in my own job, um, where I was being mistreated, potentially like laws were being broken. And I wasn't sure. I was seeking like human in this lifetime consult, but I remembered like, oh, I can ask my ancestors to talk to theirs. And it also can be like guides, like whatever
Yes.
beings.
Exactly. Whatever you want to call them,
But
right?
I
Like
often feel like they
mentors,
are
guides.
ancestors, yeah, because they're those who have more awareness than we do, like that they can hold the container, which feels ancestral.
Yeah.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I had done that at my past job, and I like forget that it's available, Bitchez. So it's funny that you said I told you that in Palm Springs. I have no memory of that, but look, they're
And
just working all the time for us.
I don't have this conversation often enough in public because it's just kind of it's a natural way that I co-create. Like part of the co-creators are my ancestors. And so
Mhm.
I'm constantly talking to them, but I don't make it like a public thing because there's a way that I am still almost like masking my witchiness or my
Mhm.
connectivity, that I kind of like hide it still subconsciously or unconsciously. Um, so I'm really
Mm,
glad that we're having a public conversation about this, about like, yes, like part of you can ask for support. I'll mention it here and there, but I don't have it like an extended conversation about like, yes, does it mean when I have my people talk to your people, or,
yes,
you
that
know,
part.
or even ask your ancestors to talk to their ancestors, whoever you're wanting to bring into your field.
Yes. Yeah. And that and I think maybe that's why I forget because I've done it a few times and then you don't have to be consciously focused on it. They're up there like working. It was explained to me. So I did some studies with Dr. Daniel Foer, who wrote the book Ancestral Medicine. Now
Mm-hmm.
I think it might be called Ancestor Medicine. Anyway, I
Okay.
have a knack for
Okay.
forgetting titles, but yeah, I think it's Ancestral Medicine. Anyway, I did a retreat with him, and one of the things that he said, we did some journeying to connect with ancestor lineage. Um, and there's like a whole process around it. It's a whole thing. But he's trained in various um, lineages that really revere the ancestors. So, I felt a lot of integrity going into this space
Mhm.
with him and just decided to trust what he said. And one of the things that he said is that the ancestors are waiting. They're not mad. Whatever time you check in with them, they're not mad. But it's
Mhm.
like I'm sitting by the phone and the phone's here, and just whenever Isha wants to call me, I'm so excited. Yes, but you do have to call
Yes.
them. You have to call them, but
Yes.
they're so ready and they're like so excited. So I think of that even in the context of what you're saying now, like, yes, um, I can reach out to them and like intentionally be like, yo, I need you to speak to blah blah's ancestors and please, direct us for the greater good of both of us, and all beings, however you want to word your outreach. And then they like work, but they have to be called into
Yes.
action. And then you don't have to
Yes.
like consciously be focused on what they might be doing, but you could check in and
Mm-hmm.
see
Mm-hmm.
see what's up.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say no, but very little formal training. Like I haven't gone to retreats where we do this as a practice. It's just been something that I've developed through my own journey, through illness and recovery and all that kind of stuff, somatic trauma healing, blah, blah, blah. But yes, the feeling that I've gotten is that they are so enthusiastic,
Mhm.
they are so available, and they want for us what we want for ourselves. Right? What we desire.
Yeah,
They're so willing to help and support, right? Like it's this yeah, like we are so backed up. Like we are so like
we're so supported.
we're so
That
supported.
we're
Yeah.
so supported. Yeah, yeah, two things there were coming up. One is that I love that you don't have formal training because I feel like the training or whatever brief my brief dip into ancestral medicine with Dr. Four was confirmation that things I had already been like tapping into. And that's like kind of his point because a lot of these lineages, like it's passed on through family, tradition, culture, and it just is like, yeah,
Yes.
the ancestors are there. Hello, let's build an altar and like ask them and like rub
Yeah.
beads, or there's different ways to connect with them. Um, I wasn't taught that. I even in like religious spiritual space, no one was telling me to like check in with the ancestors.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
but something like the same thing before I even did this, I started to like get the feeling like I think, I'm not alone. And had already been doing things. And I can't say there weren't other teachers, but I can't even remember who or how that I just started to get intrigued. And that was the big thing that was confirmed for me is like we are totally not alone. We're not alone. So if you feel alone, they're a great resource to tap into. And yeah, they want like they already know, they've already been through this. And so have we. But that's another past lives, another
That's
story.
a,
But
exactly. That's
like
another timeline. Yeah.
they they want love and they can see that. It's like they can see what's possible. They want to remind you what's possible.
Hmm.
I think of, see, I have this thing with like forgetting names, but I think of the woman the poet who has done the presidential inaugurations before,
Yes, I know who
Amanda.
she, yes,
Yeah.
I know who you're talking
Um,
about, but I don't know her last name.
yes, phenomenal. Bless you for forgetting your last name, but you're amazing. Um, I remember her saying that when she goes up, she speaks so eloquently and she's like a younger person. She calls in the ancestors, and that propels her to be like, yes, I'm here
Mhm.
because they're
Mhm.
with me. Um,
Exactly. Yeah, and I think I remember at the very early stages of COVID, really wanting some formal, speaking of like the formal and the ways that we doubt ourselves in our ability
mm,
to connect. I had already been connecting with my grandfather, with my great grandmother on my father's side, his mother to some degree, but mostly my grandfather on my mother's side. And I was kind of like thinking I needed to do more or to do it in a different way. And I contacted, um, someone who was very well versed, had been
mhm,
trained, did this formally, did this for other people, engaged in ceremony like on a daily basis, like was very like immersed in that world. And it was again like it was a confirmation. I just had like one session with him like on the phone, but it was kind of like, I need help. Do I need to formalize this? Do I need to do more?
mhm.
And basically the answer for me was no.
Yeah.
And that I could do this and I could do that, but it would just be another way of connecting. And I already had my way. So I was just like, oh,
Mhm.
yeah, this isn't like we think it has to be done in a formal way, or it has to be look a certain way, or involve a specific traditional or cultural ceremony, and it does not. It can like, I remember seeing again, I'm not remembering names either, but I'm remembering this woman who talked about, she's a medical intuitive, And she
Mhm.
talked about like, oh my God, fucking get me out of this can be your daily prayer, right? Like
Yeah.
that something as
Hmm. Hmm.
ridiculous as that,
That
or
was my
like,
daily prayer at my job. It's like, I know
right?
there's a way out. Please show me,
Yes.
with integrity how to leave, so that I'm not
Yes.
doing harm to myself or other beings or
Yeah,
and they
exactly.
were the
Like,
ones like actually Isha, yes, because when I did the, asking their guides and I started to do a daily prayer in that way because I felt so much contention. I didn't want to leave a resentment. I know that that turns into actual physical
yeah,
disease. I was like, let me not leave with resentment. And I let them take care of it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I got relieved. I got delivered.
And just being part of this short journey that you know, in this time that we have known each other, I have seen how like magical your life is. Like I've witnessed you just things just pop up seemingly out of nowhere and opportunities and like trips and travel
Hmm.
and just like wow. So I really considered you as someone who's like very tapped in and very able to like conjure and create and easefully. And I think of myself as like I can do that too. And I think that it's
Hmm.
part of
Hmm.
this trust in that we are supported, that we get to
Yeah.
have, and that our ancestors are like delighted and so celebrating whatever we do co-create or whatever we desire, that they want it for us and then we get to have it, right? That permission that I know you give yourself to
Hmm.
brag, to have, to
Hmm.
create, right? I think it's
Yeah.
the part of the magic is in the celebration and in the like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
yes of I get to have and I get to experience and I get to love and I get to like just enjoy.
Yes. Totally. Yeah, thank you for saying all that. Because even when you're like, I want to talk to you about the ancestors, or I can't remember how you phrased it, and I was like, me? But then when I was like, well, I mean, I do really love my ancestors. I'm, you know, always forgetting them and then remembering and, have been on a journey of connecting and it's as you're saying this, it's just occurring to me that I don't have to do like a lot of work to connect with them. I mean, I can do as much or as little ritual ceremony. And it's yeah, once I invited them in, which did happen when I got really ill, and just for whatever reason, this was in 2018, um, my grandmother started to appear. I mean, I have some ideas of why, but um, and then it was from there, like, they come when we do magical ritual stuff. That's, they're like, yes, we're here. And I think part of what they're reminding me is sometimes they didn't have enough fun. They didn't
Yeah.
take the joy, the springtime. It's raining today. Well, the flowers are getting water, and we're getting what flowers after the long winter. We had to have the winter so that they could germinate or whatever they do beneath the ground. I don't know that. Um, like the small, simple things that make life incredibly poignant and beautiful, they know that now. And
Right.
that's a deep, deep gift I've received from them. And actually, I didn't even know that I received that from them until you said this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, from contacting them and connecting, um, that is a huge gift I've gotten to be able to be like, this is it. This is fucking great. This
Yeah.
is
I
it
mean,
though.
I'm so glad you're saying that because I remember one time I used to have this morning ritual where I used to light a candle and just kind of feel them and maybe ask a question. I would say thank you first of all, like thank you
Mhm.
for being here for me and supporting me, and thank you for just like this connection that we
Mhm.
have. And then I would ask a question, or what do I need to know today, or is there a way that you can guide me today, or then I would wait for the answer. But one time I was connecting, and the download that I received was this message that you're sharing right now about like the enjoyment of life, of like the pleasure that is like the pleasure that exists in the living in every moment. Like every moment is infused with pleasure, and the richness of life, or the wealth of just
Mhm,
being,
mhm,
is in the noticing and the being able to take in the pleasure, and being able to really
mhm.
receive the pleasure. And that, like the day that message came in, I was like, oh, like I had already sort of been moving in that direction. And then when they gave me permission, I got it. Just what you said, that they weren't able to be in the unfolding enjoyment of life. They had to toil away. They had to bury so much of who they were in order for
Mm.
me to be here. And that my gift for them was to be in that enjoyment, because they got pleasure in seeing me be in that space
Yes.
and in that energy and in that vibration.
Yes. Yeah. Totally. That is it.
That changed
Um,
my life. That in that moment, like that permission of like, oh, like you want me to do that? Oh shit,
wait, I can
okay.
just enjoy this.
Oh my God, I'm gonna go for
I
it.
don't have to
Thank
try
you.
harder. I know. Everything
Exactly.
becomes a brag. Um, yeah. And even as you're speaking, Isha, it's occurring to me like there's some of the more immediate ancestors who are like, yo, wake up, like this is it. This is beautiful. Like we, yeah, toiled and drank too much and all the things. And then there's the further ancestors that this was helpful for me to do that ancestral medicine work because I hadn't like tapped into like, oh, there's like, they go far, they go back forever. Um, they did know. They did know.
Yes,
They knew.
exactly.
They were just like sitting by springs, brushing their hair and talking to deer, like
Trees.
trees.
Yes,
Yes. Yes.
exactly. Oh my God. Yes. Thank you for saying that. Right. I have the immediate ones, the ones that maybe my father or my mother could name by name,
Right, right,
right? Or that
right.
they remember. And then they're the ones that the ancient ones that are like nameless, maybe even faceless, and that you can sense, and that are like, I have one in particular who's like a female or femme, and she's just like so raw energy, like
Mm,
raw, kind of
mm,
a growly, kind of very insistent energy. But she is like she's a force. Like you can feel how connected to nature she is. She is nature. Like she is just
yeah.
pure nature. And she feels very different from my other ancestors.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
That is beautiful.
So
And how
that
did you connect to her? Like, where did you find her?
I don't even remember. I think it might have been during one of my breathwork sessions, where I just
Amazing.
like was breathing, and all of a sudden I felt this, like almost like there was a funnel, somebody attached a funnel to my head, and they
Mm,
poured the rage of all of my female ancestors, like they were pouring them in, and I was processing it through my body. And I was just like shaking and moving and growling, and my face was contorting. And then like I feel like I through that experience I birthed her, and she kind of came out and she was like, here I am, I'm with you now, like this was the initiation to be able to speak with me, or something like that. It felt like
hmm.
after that point, she was coming through pretty consistently. But I had to kind of
Cool.
like compost all of
Yeah.
that rage. Yeah.
Amazing.
Did you have experiences like that where maybe during a retreat or a breathwork session, because I know that you do breathwork sessions,
Mhm.
um, did anything like that come through, where like specific people or specific energies?
Yeah. I mean, yes. And I was just thinking of uh when you named this ragey femme person, I did a session. I don't know what it was. It was some sort of healing. It was amazing, but I can't really tell you what the person was doing. I laid with my eyes closed and I think she played the drum and then maybe moved energy around. I really can't remember, but um, and I don't know how this was called in, but there's a blonde lady at my feet. She's the one who like um lays by the water in like Scotland and stares at
Yes.
herself and just like brushes her hair all day. And she just like loves the deer and the trees. She's really sad about having to have left that. So I know she's
Mm.
both like pure, just this is enough, like an earth nymph. And then she's carries the grief. Like there's that water of just like, they fucking took me out of this place to come to this place. Like, no.
Mm.
Um, and then there's this dark-haired woman to my left who's like a maternal grandmother. She's got vibes of my grandmother's mother, and she makes mutton pie. I don't even know what that is, but I've heard that word used. I'm like, she's like feeds me and just is very warm and maternal. There's other ancestors, but these two are kind of like always with me.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, like and I've seen them like pretty clearly, and like I'll go places sometimes and Blondie, like brush her hair lady, well, she'll be so excited that we're
Yeah.
traveling and reconnecting to, the things that matter, like
Yeah.
brushing her hair. It's just so funny to me that that's what she's doing in the forest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And you're always touching your
I know,
hair
I'm
too.
like,
Your hair.
like thinking of her, just like sending vibes. And by the way, I
Yeah.
can't like actually really brush my hair, so that would destroy it. Um,
Exactly.
it would become puffy. Yeah, and then I've connected for a while I was doing breath work as my um therapy. Like I was working with a psychotherapist, but who had been trained in breath work. So we would do like therapy sessions um by using breath work. And I saw a lot of like witchy femme history of like women images being like burned at the stake. Like that was a lot of stuff that I saw, and like connecting to
Mhm.
like the connection I would receive was like, so this is why you carry a lot of fear. This is why it's challenging to be seen. This is why, but girl, bitch, you need to do that anyway because we've already been burned. So there's nothing worse
Yeah.
that could happen.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, that's been coming that was coming up for me so strongly after I had that funnel medicine come through is like this needs to be expressed and I was like, "Oh, like my
Mhm,
witch wound was like turned on. Like
mhm.
I would feel like the almost like a hand around my throat that I just couldn't speak the truth that needed to be sort of put out in the world. And I was like, it was so hard for me to do that because of this intense, intense fear that I had around witchiness, around
Yep.
bitchiness, what,
Mhm.
however, like bitchiness meaning like the power, like the bitch
Yeah. Yeah.
power, and witchiness is magic. So absolutely. Yeah, it's so powerful how our process, and I say like, just hearing your story and sort of combining with mine is like, yeah, really releasing that in this lifetime and then freeing them as well. Like
Yes.
part of the reason they're so excited is because we have tools that they didn't have. And we have like ways to communicate, like even online, that they didn't
Mhm.
have. And
Yeah.
so it's like our transmissions are just so much more powerful. We have all of these tools, both the self-healing or like being able to meet ourselves in those places of fear, plus the ways of communicating are just like beyond what they ever, had available to them. So this is a super exciting
Totally.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really exciting, like literally exciting the nervous
Yeah.
system and the
Yeah.
world. I'm like, I feel like that. And yeah, they are excited. Like just even as you were talking, I could see ancestral imagery of that part. Like, yes, do this now.
Right.
And I'm getting the reminder, like, they knew some deep shit, even without like being able to connect and
Yes.
interconnect, that they had ways of being, um, yeah, I connected with my mother's father's line, and the ancestral medicine thing that I did
Mm,
was like there was a process where we connected with a specific line
mhm,
from the four primary grandparents, or yeah, anyway, mother, father,
mm,
father, mother, that whole thing.
yeah.
And um, because I was new to it, I checked in with them like whatever psychically or something. I don't know what had happened for me to find out which line was the healthiest,
Yeah.
the most healed, because you work with them, and then in this practice at least, then they can support you to heal the other lines, and then you're like healing. So that's
Mhm,
like that practice. I only did one line. I feel okay with that at this point. I'll
mhm,
know if I need to go back and heal more lines. But what I saw, and you're reminding me as you were talking about how excited they are about all this extra, like the XX extra that we have. I saw in my line, like back before, they got ripped out of Europe and brought here in the devastation, that there was a lot of like gender bending and people were into theater. I don't know anyone in my family who is like theatrical or like makes art. No offense, y'all. But I saw
mm.
that in my line and I was like, oh, we were fun. So there was this sort of, it's like a remembering as well as like a
Yes.
extra transformational, more,
Yes.
that there's like a remembering that they had a lot. And
Yes.
then it
Yes.
got forgotten as we became more connected because of
Yes.
domination and
Yes.
that
Exactly.
that whole thing.
Yes. Thank you for saying that because when I was in my recovering from illness journey, right, this is where I
Hmm.
really asked for help.
Hmm.
And I asked for help from my paternal grandmother, who I knew was connected to the plants. She knew
Hmm.
ways of healing, right, that were that's food is medicine. And I was already interested in nutrition and all that, but I was really like in a desperate way wanting to, can you tell me what's wrong with my body? Why am I experiencing this? What are the plants and what are the foods? And I would be guided to the foods. Like she would be like, try this, try that. And I would really be like, in the health food store or even online shopping for things. And I would just kind of ask her. As I was looking at the products and I
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
what about this? And I would just get like a nod or a shake of the head, and
Uh-huh.
so really like I was like guided to specific plants. And just you had mentioned your illness,
Hmm.
your journey as well. And I was wondering, like, do you mind to share a little bit more? Like, was that a point at which, was that like a pivot point for you in your life in terms
Fuck
of
yes, it
connecting?
was.
Yeah.
And now that I've done my astrology reading with hashtag Natalie Levine astrology, um, props, highly recommend. Um, would like to do another reading and frequently, because I found it just amazing. But I also got confirmation from the universe that at that time, astrologically, it was a big time of transformation. And I'm like, no shit.
Yeah.
So that is an understatement. Yeah. And let's see, December 2017, I couldn't like breathe very well to the point that I was like, I think I need to go into the emergency room. I was a nurse practitioner in the South Bronx, New York City, and have been working for 7 years. So I was taking terrible care of myself. And it's just so, it paints a picture of like, I think I'm painting a picture of what I now see as like a cultural phenomenon that I was participating in. So yeah, I didn't even know how to, I was like, do I go to the ER? Like, I don't even know how to take
Mhm.
what, I don't have a doctor or a practitioner. So I did take myself to the ER up in the Bronx because that's where I worked. And I ended up, you know, getting admitted and getting diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. I thought maybe I had
Oh,
like a pulmonary embolism, which is not, that's a really terrible diagnosis,
wow,
but
Annelle, I
I
didn't know
was
it was
not
stage
expecting.
4,
Yeah,
stage 4. What the
yeah,
actual fuck?
yeah, what the actual fuck? I mean, I can even like, I literally left my body in the ER. They were like, there's a mass in your, I was like, a what? Like, no,
Get the fuck
I
out.
can't hear you anymore. Yeah. So, yeah, and I was 40 years old. So this was, they finally called January 4th, 2018 to tell me it was not all the other zebras they were chasing. That's what we call it in medicine, where it's like a
Mhm,
atypical
mhm.
presentation. It was in fact a cancer that I already knew. Like I knew, like when they said it and they were like, well, just search for all these other things. I was like, no,
No,
this is fucking cancer. Um, And so I've learned a lot since then. But one of the first things I noticed that I started worrying about other people. Like my partner, Alex, I was like, is he going to be okay? Have my patients, I have charting to
mhm,
do.
mhm.
And so I now know that that was a trauma response. And uh, yeah, I've read, I don't as much anymore, but at the time I like consumed other people's stories of cancer
Mm,
diagnosis and survival.
mhm.
Um, and they run the gamut. Like there's not one way. So when I say that
No,
like I was guided to find healing, whatever, that is not what happens for everybody, and it's fine. There's
right.
definitely not one way, but that is what happened to me. I was like, could my could the way I'm living be contributing to this? Um, without judgment or shame, but like, can I change the whole thing? And that is what I've done. I mean, I've literally changed. I'm not working in the same profession anymore. Um,
Yeah.
and I could go on about the story, but one of the things I started to wonder about was like, is Western science, medicine stuff, is that the only place we can heal? Because I don't think it's doing the greatest job. As a provider, I love seeing patients. The whole like leaving feeling better thing, I wasn't witnessing, but I was witnessing like the interpersonal interaction. Like I noticed like when I
Yes.
talk to people and listen, that feels good for me and for them. They still have really uncontrolled diabetes, but we're connecting. And so yeah, that's what led me when I had my, I went on medical leave and was out of work for a while, for a very long time. And I take Western medicine. I love it. I, you know, sprinkle prayers and pussy juice all over it and all that. But I believe in science and I think it's limited. And so I started
Mhm.
to wonder what the fuck else was out there. And when I opened myself up to be guided, now I know that's what it was. I was being guided. I found the ancestors. I found breathwork. I found Neonu, which is how I found you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, what is even happening here? I met you, Isha, in a space called Beyond Diversity 101. Um, yeah, I saw that we could be in space and the potential for harm and our histories and all that, our histories, but we could be unapologetic about who we actually are. Um,
Yes.
and I had never, like in the South, you just apologize all the time for
For just
we're just
existing.
always, yeah, bless your heart. I'm so sorry. Like, please and thank you. Um, and that's where I was raised, just to qualify that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that diagnosis cosmically and biophysically changed my life. And I'm super grateful that I'm still alive, still living with the way that it works now. Like, I am not a cancer person. I didn't, when my patients got diagnosed with cancer, I'm like, off you go to someone else. I don't manage that. And I don't manage my own. Like, I've learned about it, but I'm not like gonna be the
Yeah.
specialist for my own body, like for my own higher level cancer understanding. I'm just
Yeah.
not. And I will be an intuition around my body. But I now I forgot where I was going with that. I can't-
But yeah, like you were
Yeah.
talking about, you know, in your journey and not being the specialist, you were like
Yeah, I had
in the
a
recovery
huge point I was going to
process.
make, but I can't. Yeah, and the recovery and the like awareness. I don't know, something about healing. I was going somewhere and now I forgot it because I got like so caught in the journey. It'll come back. Sometimes it does if it's
Well,
meant
I
to
am
come back.
curious, what was your recovery? Like, how did the ancestors play a part in your recovery?
Yeah, right away. Like, I mean, I can't tell you timing, but um pretty quickly someone told me, "Oh, it's your lungs, it's grief." Like some healer person. I like
Yeah.
found a Reiki. I started doing things, but I almost feel like I even like knew that. Like now it just feels I'm like it's grief. So I might have read like Louise Hay or something where
Yeah.
I like, different parts of my body meant things. I don't know. Or did I just but the timing was all
It's all
fluid
blurry.
that the lungs are this deep space of grief. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I can cry if I'm watching like a movie. But to like really grieve, we don't do that. And my people, that's what I mean. Um, and yeah, I mean, even like pointing to my right lung, my grandmother came through. My grandmother, who's my namesake, her name is Nina Claire and I'm Annelle Claire. Um, and that just like right away, I was like, it's Big Mama. Um,
Mm.
and I just I knew this as a person witnessing her, but we never really spoke about it. I knew that she carried so much grief. She was diagnosed with manic depression. And I'm like, that was grief. That was just grief. Um, and Isha, we could do a whole podcast on Big Mama, but I'll just say that, yeah, when she showed up, it was sort of like, now you get to feel this. And, like feeling is healing. I've learned that. And it was, yeah, like you're doing, I get to do what she didn't get to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so incredible. Yes, this feeling of you getting to do what they didn't get to do. And just kind of like a segue into the manifestation piece, specifically around money.
Hmm.
Um, when my ex-husband passed away, like he we had always this together dream, this joint dream of like living in a particular house. Like we
Hmm.
like the specific architecture,
Hmm.
minimalism, and this and that, and blah blah blah. And
Hmm.
like this is how we would arrange our clothes in the closet, right? And we had this like very specific dream together that we wanted to co-create, and it never came into fruition. And I like when he passed away, there was this whole like, and this can go into another conversation about like how you heal a relationship that was like crappy in the 3D. How do you heal
Hmm.
that when the person is on the other side, right? Like how do you heal that when this person becomes an ancestor? That's a whole conversation we
Yeah.
could have as well. And I did that part. And at some point I said, okay, like now that you are available to help me in a way that you couldn't help me when you were here, help me create this dream that you and I had together. Like, I want to
Yes.
still do that. Help me, show me the way. And I was like, when I was praying like that. I was like, show me, show me. Like, I was very insistent, like, dude,
Hmm.
like, you
Yes.
have the power now. Like, wake
Right.
up and
Right.
show me. And so that's what's been like very much been part of my process is like, I want this so badly and I want it for both of us. I want you to
Yeah.
witness me. I want you to be part of it. I want our children to have it, you know? And so I was very
Yeah.
like, let's go. And
Yeah.
that
Let's go. And like get right. It's almost like as you're talking, like, does it matter which lifetime we get what we wanted? Like
exactly,
it's
exactly.
because it's like even lineage, they say you heal 7 generations forward, 7 generations back, but you're also healing. Now I'm getting this download, Isha. They'll never be able to prove it, or they will, but that you're healing those with whom you've had relationship and love, and like who even knows other beings, that
Yeah.
your ex who is not your bloodline, but you had a dream and
Right.
now you're being propelled forward into the dream with his hurt.
Yes. And it's like, who knows how this is rippling into his line, right? Because my children are connected
That,
to his line,
yes,
right? So that
that,
just
that,
extrapolates, like there's like this reverberation of healing, like in all, it's like shooting out in all these different directions. I'm seeing this image, right, of like pew 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 pew,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. I'm getting that feeling as well.
Yeah.
Um, and another thing that's just coming through and I find fascinating about the ancestors talking about this, this lifetime, and then when they pass over, how they were in this lifetime does not determine how they be on the other side. That's what I
Absolutely. And
found about my grandfather on when I did this ancestral medicine journey. I expected to be connected with Big Mama. I was like, well, she's who showed up. Like, always, no, she was not the most well ancestral line. It was my mother's father, who he was an alcoholic and then very sick. I mean, I loved him, but he was a funny dude, but he also had a lot of trouble in this lifetime. I did not at all. And he's the person I'm least close to.
wow.
But when I checked with the other realm, like there he was, John D, like totally ready, like very available.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I've done ancestral meditations with people and they're surprised with who shows up. Totally. And why do you think that a particular person shows up? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, in why do I think a particular person shows up? I think the person that we need shows up when we tap into what it is we're needing. Like, I need help manifesting this house. Isha, X shows up. Like, that's
Yeah.
like I get cancer in my right lung, it's grief. Okay, like there's Big Mama. And
Hmm.
when in this particular medicine, um, ancestral medicine journey, we were checking in with the lineage and like feeling into their level of wellness. And that was like defined. It was, it's like how healed or whatever present are they? And I felt into it. So I got to like check in with all of them. And this lineage showed up, but like the lady at my feet and the other, I mean, they just appeared. I didn't, I don't even remember what this person was guiding me into, but all of a sudden there they were. So I'm
Yeah.
only thinking that whomever we need shows up.
That this particular ancestor or this guide has the medicine, right? Or they
Yeah,
have a part of the medicine that you need in order
something, some
to,
message
yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
then it's up to us, but is that real? Well, that's up to you to decide if you want to trust into it. But how fucking fun is it to believe and
Yeah,
see what happens, as evidenced by the more beautiful life some of us live now? That's Yoni.
exactly. Yeah, yes, yes, yes.
You
You
want to
know, and
know
I,
what trusting the ancestors looks like? Look at folks who do. And
yes, exactly. Thank you. And a lot of people ask me like when they have like specifically like abusive ancestors, like or people who were abusive in this life,
Mhm,
be it physical, sexual, emotional, and then they pass, or they cross over, and then like, oh, how do I now repair this relationship, or how do I create a relationship that feels like I am supported and I feel like ancestor wealthy,
mhm, mhm,
wealthy in
mhm,
in the spirit realm, because that is one of the dimensions I believe of relational wealth, is having being connected in the spiritual realm, because like you said earlier, you are never alone. Even in your loneliest moments, you are loved and supported and like celebrated. Your existence, your most primal beingness is just like loved unconditionally. And so how can we
yeah,
feel that with people who we once had, a challenging relation
challenger. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. You know?
Yeah, and I know it's possible. I mean, again, I'm not like ancestral specialist, but I'm just like feeling into the response and I'm remembering this dude, Dr. Daniel Four, who has studied all this and had answers when people had these like wild questions about their ancestors, which I was like, I can't even believe you're asking that because my judgy bitch likes to judge really good questions. Um, he always had something. So I don't, know what someone like that would say, but I can say from having tapped into my mother's father, who was a challenging person, like he had been an
Mhm.
alcoholic.
Yeah,
I don't really know. They don't talk about stuff, but there
yeah.
could have been um, abuse. I didn't know him like that, but I knew he carried that. When I found him, he was just very present and available, and that's like the feeling I got. But I don't know if I were going back to find, like I'm thinking of who I have tapped into. Like I've tapped into the people before we came over and like enslaved people.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
the, the yeah, I mean, even when I've tapped into like the energy of my people who enslave people, there's like so much grief. There's so much
mm-hmm.
grief there that almost I feel a little sorry for them. And I'm like, how could I not like love this life so much?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I don't know though. I think it must be so individual.
I feel
And
like
it
what
might be
you're,
something you need support with sometimes. Like if you're tapping into connecting with an ancestor that's challenging, maybe that needs to be done with support from
yeah, yeah.
another
And
ancestor or a human or yeah.
right, my experience of, let's say, maybe like grandparents and things like that is that they are who they are without the defenses and without the trauma, without the
Hmm.
trauma patterning, right? They are sort
Yeah,
of,
it's almost like I see that because when yeah, the grandfather, I keep he's kind of hangs out here. What up? Um, yeah, he's just like pure. He's like
yes,
he hangs out by the
yes,
river and he's got all these other dudes because they all look like, male presenting people for whatever reason. It's
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
like the male line. Yeah, there's like a purity.
Yes, that's what I experience as well. And so that we can, obviously when I call in people, I always call in people. When I call in people specifically, because now they're just the right people are here. But I would call in specifically the people who were here for my and the collective's highest good. So not calling in like some random
Yes.
mentors, but like specific, like the people who are ready to co-create, the
Right.
people who are able, who are capacitated to like, and whose intentions are very pure and clear. Those are the people I'm calling in. So that was a boundary that I set as well. And not
Mm-hmm.
to call in any person who had not done their work
Right.
in the spirit realm, because I sense, I don't know this, we don't know this for sure, right? But I do sense that there is a space in the spirit realm where people do their spiritual work. Like there is a
Mm.
purification
Oh, I
process.
love that. Mm-hmm.
So some people are not ready, right? And there are spirits
Yes.
that don't have the best intentions, or entities, whatever you want to call them. That is my belief, at least, given my personal experience with, playing Ouija and shit like that, and having other
Yes.
things attached to me. Um, but yeah, so it's like when we
Right.
call in, to be specific about who we call in, not in terms of people, but intention and purity of heart. Yeah.
Yes. Amazing. And that is confirmed by this thing I did, with the dude who studies. It's funny, my friend and I who did the retreat, we called him Dr. Man Bun Done. Um because he used to have a man bun and we were like, we're not taking a retreat with this like white man with a man bun. But then we heard him speaking, we were like, oh. And by the time he got to the retreat, he'd taken the man bun off, but it was Ireland. So we were like, done. I know, it's such a good joke. Dr. Man Bun Done. So he will now be known as that. And if he ever hears that, blessings, I think it's really funny. So, Dr. Man Van Den said that part of this practice of connecting to the well is that, yes, there's like I can't remember what it's called in Greek mythology, but it's like they haven't crossed over the river. They're like, there's
Mm-hmm.
still, is it called purgatory? I can't remember, but it's
Yes,
where
but they're kind of like figuring shit out.
right, they're not fully in the land of the like well
Yes, they're
dead.
not fully well. Yeah.
And so when you find the well, which is what you already knew to call in, they can bring the others over to the other side with your support. And then you have
Yes.
like, and that's part of the way you can like actively heal your lineage. But then when we live a joyful life, we're also healing the lineage without having to do the like,
Right.
shamanic journeying. So
Yeah.
it's all just parts of the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making me think about also, Isha, I had thought about this at the beginning of the conversation, but I'll just name it
Yeah.
here that I studied with Mama Gina and she works with this ritualist named Ayo. And Ayo is like her friend, but she also does ritual with us. And Ayo shared that she grew up, I think in the South, but going to church and like really liked the like ritual part of church. And then she just started, as she said, quote unquote, I just started making shit up and I noticed it was like powerful. And she kind of gave me permission, like, you know, s-
Yeah.
kind of like what you're saying, like, are we making shit up or we're like feeling into it or whatever, but it works.
Right.
And it works because you feel
Exactly.
it. And that's what's so creative and like amazing about ritual and practice and ceremony. And that's what my ancestors reminded me. Like when I went and connected with the fairy, gender bending, femme looking, nymphy people who are painting and making wood items, carving into wood, they reminded me that they had just always been making stuff up
Yeah.
and they knew it worked because it did.
I love it. I love it. That's like what a beautiful way to close this conversation is to
Mm,
just like, we can just make shit up and materialize it. We can make shit up and
yeah.
materialize it. Yeah.
Right. Does it feel good to you? Well, that
Exactly.
first we have to learn how to feel our bodies sometimes. I
Yeah.
had to do that. And then you start to be able to discern, like, I mean, this just feels outstanding.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you're saying, a lot of what you're saying is in alignment with what I like learned from a person who studied it. It's like, yeah, because I felt that, felt it.
Exactly. Exactly. Annelle, thank you so much. Thank you so
This
much
has
for
been
this
awesome.
conversation. And but then the ancestors literally like, for the people who are listening, like the ancestors literally like yesterday or the day before were like, get Annelle onto the podcast next episode. Let's go. And I was like, Annelle, can you make it happen? Let's go. Yes. And here we
Yes. And when he
are.
reached out
Like,
to me, I was like, what? How?
yeah. And I was
And
like,
then
they
I just like, I'm
insisted.
so into it. Yeah, I am so honored. And thank you,
Yeah.
ancestors, for calling me here.
And I want you to share, please, like, where can people find you? What do you offer people? Because I know that you offer incredible, incredible work.
Yes. Currently, the best place to find me is on Instagram at the Annie B. That's BE dash Annie dash B, the letter B, but I'm about to change it. I haven't done that because I'm still living in my witch wound. Anyway, at the moment, it's a tribute to my inner child, Annie B. So yeah, that's the best place to find me. And I do offer amazing shit, one of which is live breathwork here in New York City. So follow me on Instagram to find out about that. And then I do soon to be doing virtual breathwork and bitch circles. And I work with Isha to make bitches wealthy and support the more beautiful, abundant future we know is possible, or present, present future.
Yes.
And I also work with healthcare workers and we do healing circles to heal the harm that has and is taking place in medicine and to imagine different ways of healing in that space.
Wow, incredible. Such like
Mhm.
such rich work. Really
So
like,
fun.
yeah. I love it. Thank you again for being here and for like just giving so much of this, like your personal wealth that that you've gotten from your journey. So thank you.
Thank you.